Afternoon, everyone. I hope those of you that came from long distances are doing okay with the jet lag. I know that the first couple of days is always the tricky ones. I am incredibly happy and honored to be here. I'm going to talk about some of the exciting things I think that we're working on. I want to just maybe start with my thanks to all of the submitters who submit for the session that we're about to hear. I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm hoping you'll find it as interesting as I did when I saw who was interested in presenting. The second thing I want to do is I also want to thank ODSS and Susan for letting us come and speak, and be a part of this session. I think Susan has been an incredible leader for cyber infrastructure at the NIH for really a long time now. And almost everything that I talk about today, it has some touch from her leadership in here. And we really, within IT, spend a lot of our time thinking about how we can serve technical solutions that are broadly useful, as well as really serving the needs of leadership. And I just want to thank Susan for providing that and helping us, give us direction. Today, what I'm going to do over the next 19 minutes or so is I'm going to very quickly talk a little bit about how we do computing at the NIH. I'll talk about how I'm really making an effort to engage the informatics or the technical community. I'm hoping that some of you, in terms of what are the tools that are available for helping build a digital ecosystem that supports biomedical research. I'll talk about our cloud program and data infrastructure that we support within the cloud, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the work that we're doing in AI to help support research and administration at the NIH, and then I'll finish with just sort of hopefully some high-level comments about cyber infrastructure and bringing it all together. First of all, if you're not familiar, maybe some of you are new to the NIH. The mission of the NIH is to improve the health of people everywhere, and we are a federated organization with a total budget of somewhere around $45 billion. And we are made up of 27 institutes and centers, as well as the Office of the Director. And all of the institutes and centers are relatively federated. They get an appropriation from Congress. They have their own strategic plans and missions, their own leadership, often their own IT teams, their own CIOs, their own approach to technology. And so, really when we try to kind of build and connect things together at the enterprise level, there's a lot of kind of working and influencing that has to happen to be able to do that. The Center for Information Technology, which I lead, is that central information technology organization that supports the NIH ICOs. So we are the enterprise provider of technology at the NIH. So as we think about technology at the NIH, when I first arrived, I spent a lot of time having conversations. And the most important thing that we have is people. We are almost 6,000 FTE that support information technology through the NIH organization. Of those 6,000, they do an incredible amount of work everywhere in the biomedical research domain, like things that you've heard about earlier, but also all the way through to supporting a large number of kind of enterprise efforts within the Department of Health and Human Services at the NIH. Leveraging those people, we build enterprise infrastructure, networks, things like that. We are heavily invested into the cloud and building infrastructure within the cloud to support both research, but also administrative functions. And then, of course, AI and data platforms are really forming the key that kind of drives all of those things together. But the thing I want to really highlight here is the people component, and that the NIH broadly has just incredible informatics and IT that supports it. And that's really the reason why we do what we do. So I wear two hats at the NIH. So first of all, I lead direct the Center for Information Technology, which is the enterprise IT arm for enterprise information technology at the NIH. We support the network, we support email, we support collaboration tools like Teams, we support our data centers, our hosting capacity, all of the kind of normal things that you would think about when you think about enterprise information technology. I'm also the Associate Director for IT Cyber Infrastructure and Cybersecurity, or ITCC. We love our acronyms, where I oversee the Office of the CIO. And we recently recruited two very, very impressive leaders, Ivor D'Souza to be the Deputy Director of CIT, and Adele Merritt, who has a long history as a CIO within the federal government. And she's been around since, I think, about December of 2024 is when she started, and has been doing a fantastic job. The Office of the CIO provides strategy and governance. It really helps connect ICs together. We also provide information security, which is an important role that happens within the NIH, and the Chief Information Security Officer reports up to Adele. When we think about cyber infrastructure, there are 27 institutes that are all kind of building their own technologies, and sometimes they work together, sometimes they're things that are enterprise, sometimes they're things that are focused within each of them. I collaborate a lot in my first year with the National Library of Medicine and with ODSS, with Susan's team. And we spend a lot of time trying to work together to think about, like, what are those kind of technologies that can help drive my team as we think about what, biomedical research things that are useful. And so in summary, what our aim to do, and the reason that I'm sort of presenting to you today, is that we really try to provide those technology solutions that support that under that leadership. I'm going to start by just talking about some very high-level success stories from our team, and then I'll dive in and talk about biomedical research as I get toward the end of my presentation. So first of all, we support an enterprise NIH network. We have 45,000 staff, 700,000 visitors, 200 buildings that we support across 9 geographic locations. It's more than 4,300 miles of wired network cabling that's supported across all of what the NIH does. We support the NIH collaboration tools like email. More than 2.5 million virtual meetings were initiated under our license last year. More than 1 billion emails were sent, and more than a million gigabytes in SharePoint and OneDrive. And we support a high-performance computer with more than 100,000 nodes, BioWolf, as well as a team that supports BioWolf and collaborates with intramural research program investigators in terms of doing what they do. And BioWolf is almost 100% at capacity with more than 1 million CPU hours per month. And we've just initiated a $60 million hardware refresh where we're buying GPUs and CPUs for making BioWolf kind of advance into the future of what we need to support with the NIH. Many of you may be familiar with the cloud program Strides that has been at the NIH for a while now. It's our partnership with our cloud service providers. Again, this was started before I got here and really driven by Susan's leadership as well as my predecessor's leadership and others. It's really aligned with NIH's strategic plan for data science, provides both cost savings and efficiencies, but also partnerships with cloud providers to be able to kind of, hopefully be more than the sum of the parts of the computing that we provide. The numbers that are within Strides at this point are absolutely staggering, in my opinion. We have more than 395 million gigabytes of data now within the Strides program, and are getting close to a billion computing hours within Strides, and about 3,200 accounts that have been onboarded. Across those accounts, we've seen cost savings through that program of about $151 million. Every kind of data that you could possibly imagine in biomedical research is now in Strides, and many of the programs that we see within the NIH digital ecosystem leverage Strides and use that. Susan mentioned Cloud Lab. I love Cloud Lab and like to present it in my presentations. This is a collaboration with ODSS and NIGMS and others, where you can simply, if you're associated with the NIH, you can go to a website, fill out a request form, get an account within the cloud, and get $500 of free credits and access to trainings and things like that. One of the things I love about Cloud Lab is that a number of idea state CTRs within NIGMS worked together to develop trainings, collaborated together to develop trainings so that when new users within Cloud Lab got access to trainings, those were trainings that were collaboratively developed by other scientists to help support them. So it's kind of a way of scientists helping scientists to try to onboard and learn about how to work within the cloud. Above the cloud, we're starting to see standardization of cloud data repositories, these standard platforms to support AI model development, model and data sharing. And so I'll talk a little bit about those. And we have you've probably heard of a number of types. I've already talked to some people here that are actually associated with some of these platforms. There are a number of these different platforms that you may have heard of: Gen3, Terra, Valsera, Palantir Foundry, DNA Nexus, NIH Bricks, which is actually supported through my team. These tools enable us to essentially standardize, to adopt kind of technology standards that have been developed that that we can use to build a more standardized, broader digital ecosystem that has more off-the-shelf tooling that makes it easier to use. I'll talk a little bit about some of these standards here in a second. Again, we respond to the community, like GA4GH, for example, in terms of how we do this, and we always take, hopefully, an enterprise approach in that. One of those examples is NIH RAS, again, also mentioned by Susan earlier. A very common task that people have is authenticating identity into computer systems, and then once you get into that system, authorizing your access to data. And RAS is a open platform that enables you to bake in identity management as well as authorization using GA4GH, and is what I like to call a Lego, a modular block that contributes to biomedical cyber infrastructure. So you can pull these tools like this off the shelf and leverage them to log in. Okay, above RAS, I've mentioned a little bit about workspaces. I got to the NIH about 1.5 years ago. I worked with probably, 10 to 15 different scientific consortia. Most of them at this point had been moving into the cloud, or were looking at moving into the cloud. A very common problem that they were running into was developing standardized enclaves or sandboxes or tools to do analysis of data that was then being put into the cloud. And I think it was kind of the Wild West back then. And so that's something that we're really thinking about, is how to develop these kind of standardized approaches for enabling data analysis, data analysis in the cloud. There's a number of platforms that support this, like the workspaces I talked about a couple of slides ago. And really what we would like to think about are services in the technology space that we can provide that are plug and play, which would enable, like, say, for example, those consortium to be able to pull something easy off the shelf and leverage and use them. There are a number of NIH programs that are using workspaces today. For example, Palantir is used by NCI, NCATS, and NAIID. Verily, Gen3, DNA Nexus, Valsera are also are widely used, and you can see their users here. Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about some AI. I'm just going to give you some snapshots of some stories. So first of all, I think maybe we all realize this now. Something that I like to talk about when I talk to research groups like this is, because I don't necessarily know if the research community is realizing this completely, but we're entering kind of a new era, and that is the era of operational AI. That is AI as an advanced IT system. And I think many of you are probably going, what's he talking about? That's obvious that we're doing that. But I think it's important to understand that AI, like generative methods, are being implemented today without a data scientist being anywhere near it. And I think that's really important to understand, that you can have modules from Microsoft Office, or if you work at a health system within Epic, that are going to have really true machine learning, and there may not be a data scientist that's involved at all in that implementation because it's an IT system. And so I think we, as researchers, we need to kind of think about different workflows for doing analysis or doing research with those tools. So for example, if you work at an academic health system and you've implemented MyChart, inbox message drafting, where providers are now getting drafts of messages that they would send in response to patients. Those messages are going to be saved, and you would do research. I mean, there's lots of research opportunities, I would think, to like analyze how those messages are changing care, whether they're improving, whether physicians like them. And we've started to see, obviously, some papers, some papers that are coming out that are starting to look at that, not only provider satisfaction, but also the kind of the efficacy of using them. So AI is operational. It's being implemented as an advanced IT system. I've mentioned examples like Office 365, and we must ensure that the implementations are effective, safe, legal, ethical, and equitable. There are a number of benefits to AI business of using them. They can be more efficient. They can help with decision making. They can summarize data to knowledge. They can provide interactive chatbots that access data both in text and other things, and they can enable things like natural language processing. But of course, there are a number of risks. We know them. Generative methods can hallucinate. They can be inequitable. They can impact human rights. They may not be safe, and they may drift in accuracy over time based on the data that they were trained on. The federal government, I think, has been aware of this for some time. There's an effort where we actually collect all of the operational use cases of AI throughout the NIH and report them. This data is publicly available on a website that you can get. We've reported almost 200 different use cases of AI that are active at the NIH, that are being used and developed at the NIH. About 77 of them are actually active and are in a wide variety of different business areas that we support, including 16 of them that are, for example, chatbots. One example that I'll mention is Yang Fan. I don't know if he's still here. Who is at this meeting and was in this session earlier today. Is the director of clinical informatics for the intramural research program at the NIH, and he has developed an internal chatbot for the intramural research program using ChatGPT in the federal cloud. We rolled that out. I remember realizing just how much interest there was in it when we launched it and did a launch event. There were 600 plus people on the Teams meeting that we did to launch it, and this has been in pilot for about five or 6 months now, and will be rolled out at the enterprise level here shortly. We also have a National Library of Medicine tool developed by Xiang Lu, and that is called Trial GPT, that supports clinical trials matching for clinical trials that are happening within the intramural research program at the NIH. And of course, like others, we're implementing Copilot in Microsoft Office 365. I don't know how many people have used like Copilot in your email at this point. Raise your hand like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, right. So a few of you have used it. It's actually pretty impressive. You can get these large attachments of PDF files and ask it to summarize it, and it does actually a reasonable job of it. Okay, in the last minute, I just want to finish up by kind of talking a little bit more about why I'm talking to you today and bringing it all together. I'm very much hopeful that in CIT, what we can help do through our Office of Scientific Computing Services, as well as through work happening within OCIO, that we can identify off-the-shelf, easy-to-use technology solutions that we can help provide that enable an NIH digital ecosystem like RAS, like Strides, like our support for workspaces and things like that. And we really want to provide those tools to the community so that the community, you, can leverage them easily and put them together in such a way that you can do whatever it is that you need to do and not spend time reinventing the wheel to solve that particular problem. I think of these like Legos. I think they should be interoperable. They should be modular. The kinds of tools that I'm talking about are really the foundational ones: logging in, access to the cloud, that sort of thing. And as you kind of move up to what individual groups do or what ICs are doing, you are going to get more and more specialized. And you could imagine a lot of different kind of Lego blocks that could be used. Again, this is sort of where we're headed. We're looking for the tools that we might continue to build as part of our strategic activity, and we'll continue to do this as we move forward. We're also running a workshop at PSB, if you go to PSB in Hawaii, in January, where we'll be talking more about this. Okay, so we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to take a standards-based approach. We want to serve, so we want to, basically work under the leadership of ICs, of Susan's team, of others, and we want to, really serve the NIH biomedical research community. We have authentication. I've talked about that. We have access to cloud. I've talked about that, and we are growing support for these standard data platforms through the cloud, and we are actively working on workspaces to enable analytics and machine learning in the cloud. I just want to finish about things that are also in my strategic kind of plan of like what areas that I want to do. One is things like this, convening the technology community in biomedical research. The second one is improving fluency of technology amongst the biomedical research community, because a lot of people make decisions not really understanding the decision they're making. And I think that that's really important that we communicate that better. We want to build those tools within a cloud ecosystem. And we also, I didn't talk about this today, the NIH core research facility ecosystem, the data producers, the generators of large amounts of data that support biomedical research. So with that, I want to finish up and thank you. I think I went a minute over, I'm sorry. And I really, really appreciate all of your attendance today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. I think we may have time for one quick question. If anyone has a quick question, I don't want to fall too far behind. And I'll walk around and grab or give the mic out if you have one. All right, no questions. Next, let me get the
Thank you.
slide set up for you, Christy.